Hi, YouTube. You're canceling season 2?
And welcome back to yet another Buffalo Blue Jays pregame show and what is likely our series finale. We've never had really a sense of finality within our shows before because we're never willing to give up. But in the absence of professional baseball, this is the end, huh, Jerry?
Pretty much, yeah. There's one slight possibility of it not being the end, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit later in our little program here.
Well, that makes it feel a lot less final. Thanks a lot. So the Blue Jays, big series against the Tampa Bay Rays. What were the takeaways from you?
Well, they lost. It was kind of heartbreaking how it happened. First off, as you and I talked about in the playoff show, there was a sense of who were they going to start in the first game, and if you had watched the Orioles series, you would know that basically the Blue Jays announcers were like, how could they possibly not start Hyun-jin Ryu in the first game? Now, the Blue Jays have been very consistent about their rotation, and I knew that Matt Shoemaker had more time off than Ryu and Walker did, and I thought about that. I'm like, oh, are they really gonna move them to the last day? And part of that's just my own lack of playoff experience there. But yeah, they put Shoemaker, who was our third best option in the first game, against their first best. In essence, throwing away the game in some aspects, but that's not actually how it happened. What happened was Shoemaker did really good. He threw 3 really good innings, and they kept saying, oh, well, Charlie Montoya said that they were going to take him out after the third inning, and I'm like, oh, no, they're not going to take him out after he's doing so well, are they? And let alone they did. They put in Robbie Ray, and almost immediately the Rays started getting hits. Just like that. They took out a pitcher, and I've said this from day one. They took out a pitcher that was doing well in the playoffs. This is in the playoffs. 3 games, max. And you took out a pitcher that was pitching well to throw in a pitcher that basically lost the game for you. And so that was game 1. And then, of course, game 2, we don't have to talk about it too much. Ryu finally gets his chance, and he throws a 16 ERA, 7-0 in the middle of the the bottom of the second inning, and he's benched for the game for Stripling and several others. Horrible performance, basically. Absolutely horrible performance by Ryu in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, it really came down to the Tampa Bay Rays defense, not just their pitching, but their infield and outfield. Well, we have not given a lot of attention to. Every time they hit it, they just found a way to stop us. And the Blue Jays are not a bad hitting team, 7th in the overall league. And they held us to 3 runs in 2 games. So hats off to the Rays. I can't really say much more than that. It was on TBS. So what were your thoughts on the games?
I guess I really wished it was in Buffalo so we'd be watching games here. But, yeah, we were facing it seemed a superior team just about every way. We were outmatched in pitching and batting and fielding. So there's a reason that Tampa Bay was first in the league, I suppose.
Right, and that's the other thought. I think at least I was wrong. I thought, hey, going up against Tampa versus Cleveland, I was fine with that since I knew what to expect from Tampa. But oh man, now since the Yankees beat Cleveland, you're like, oh, if we could only get that Orioles game back when the Blue Jays, all they had to do was win that third Orioles game, and boom, they're in 5th place playing Cleveland, and I think this has to be the first time this ever happened in the history of baseball. No representative from the Central.
Yeah.
So, which is incredible. And, oh, I wish so bad now we would have played the Indians.
Well, I think it was quite obvious that we were facing a better team. There was clearly a reason that Tampa Bay was first in the American League this season, and it showed as we were outpitched, we were out-hit, outfielded, just every aspect of the game, it seems like Tampa Bay dominated. And like you said, it's a shame that we couldn't make it to that 5th seed. And and maybe face an opponent that wasn't so dominant in every way. But all that being said, over the course of this season, what I enjoyed the most has been watching you as a fan progress in your fandom of baseball as you learn more about the game and like which questions that came up in your head and kind of the ups and downs of a baseball season. You got the fight for the playoffs at the end. There was some drama, but it was really fun for me watching you enjoy your season as a baseball fan. What were the best parts of the season for you?
Oh, I mean, I think just learning to appreciate being happy about a win, and I don't know if that was a combination. I mean, I've always liked seeing the Yankees lose and the Red Sox lose, but I've never really appreciated a win, and I've never really felt like I had a win, except for the Royals. Being a Royals fan, when they won the World Series a few years back, that was a good moment. But it was not as personal. Buffalo is personal to me, and knowing you have a team representing your city in its own weird way this year, very unique. And it just felt like that first, and said it at the very beginning of the season, the first two games, I'm not sure I'll ever beat those first two games. And then there was the Philly game where they came back, won 8-7 after being down 7-0. And other moments as well, just being the Red Sox once in Buffalo because of Van Johnson, all that BS that happened there. And then learning about the past in Buffalo. And maybe in a weird way, Randy, teaching you something that I've said to you for years, and just on a personal note, like I've always respected baseball. We wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have a respect for the game of baseball and where it's been and where it's going. Still boring, but like, yeah, I think this season was so unique. 60 games, it made every game count more. The overtime rule was awesome, putting a guy on second base in the 10th. And just the strategy of that concept in overtime too. And there were a lot of overtime games, a lot of 4-hour games too. That's not normal. My parents told me that when they had to sit through the 14-1 Yankees loss because they're Yankees fans, and they were like, "Oh, this game needs to end," and I thought it was so ironic. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm glad it's over because it was a lot of my life. And what I've learned more than anything is I don't know how people do it because it's so many games. And I feel like what people must do to be baseball fans is that they go on their phones, read their papers, and see the stats and think they know what they're talking about. But how do you know? Go ahead.
The box scores.
Go ahead, Ray.
Reading the newspapers and the box scores is, just how for a century a lot of Americans have followed the sport for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, don't get me wrong. Unlike football, it's great that like you can have like the cable networks that gives you all the games. Like in football, you don't have a lot of options. But like for me, I can't follow a team unless I do that. That's why I'm a huge Bills fan.
So all this leaves one big question hanging. If miracle of miracles doesn't happen, if we don't have a vaccine, if we're still in the midst of a pandemic in next season, how likely do you see the chances of this happening again? There being once again one more season of professional baseball in Buffalo.
I see it being possible. Do I see us covering it? Absolutely not. For two major reasons. Number one, if you followed us through all this, I give you a sincere thanks, and it means more to me than you can possibly know. All right. But that being said, there just wasn't enough of you out there, faithful viewer. There needed to be more. And quite honestly, I thought there was going to be more when we started this. I thought no one else is covering the Buffalo Blue Jays. We're the only ones. If anybody actually cares about this, they'll tune in. Turns out no one really cared that much. And it goes back to the fact they couldn't watch the games except for September when all of them showed up on the Yankees channels and the Mets channels. Wow. I think if we had an opportunity to watch the games without spending $90 to buy a sports package, then I think people, I'm not saying our views would have gone up, but I'm saying people would at the very least would have watched and cared a little bit more than they did. So if they do something, and it's all in Buffalo, and they do something like go to the playoffs, they're a better team, which I think they can be because they're a young team. They're starting to build their pitchers. They gotta develop a lot more. But like if Josh Allen's taught me anything, this team can develop.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. So I mean, playoffs next year, maybe we'll come back and do a few shows in honor of what happened this year and next year as well. But full-time viewership of it, no. And on another personal note, for years, going back 8 years, Randy, I've always kind of wanted to do a sequel to Bill's Pregame. And for the longest time, I thought it was going to be Sabres. I even brought in somebody into Bill's Pregame at one point that I thought could transition into a Sabres role. And it turns out nobody cares about the Sabres either on YouTube. Except one exception, Melody Martin. She has like 13,500 subscribers or something. And she's like the only Sabres reviewer. We can't top that no matter what we do. So congrats to Melody Martin. We'll Sabres are covered. So this was our Buffalo Bills pregame show sequel, if you will. And it was what it was. And
so glad to have been a part of it.
I'm sorry?
I'm so glad to have been a part of it.
Oh, I don't want to make it sound bad. It was a fun time. I mean, I thought we did well. And if you watched it, you know we did well. That's right. I'm going there.
In terms of them playing in Buffalo, do you think it's very likely, or do you think
I do actually? Yeah. Believe it or not, I do, because the vaccine's not going to be out by next April. So I see at least partial season them playing in Buffalo again. The only thing that could interfere is if the Bisons play. But I feel that, and that's interesting because the Bisons might not play, but what's going to stop the rest of the International League from playing? That's a debatable point, because that's part of this too. The Bisons just happen to not be playing, so we'll see. And they might they might think a little bit more ahead and come up with a different stadium option. I don't know what other better option there is, quite honestly, if they don't want to share a stadium with somebody. But we'll find out. Yeah, I don't foresee them starting in Toronto next year, start of the season.
Yeah, as hard as the players pushed against Buffalo being the destination this year, I wonder if actually playing here changed in their minds, or if the whole season to prepare, they find anywhere else to play.
I think they liked it in the end. Like, I mean, it wasn't until they started, but I think they became. I don't know if they embraced the city at all, but they embraced playing in Salem. A lot of them had that background experience from being on the Bisons and already playing in Salem. So, and that definitely helps. So I think they embraced what they were given, and hey, they were the 7th best hitting team in the league. So they were good. I mean, not the best, obviously, but they were good enough to get in the playoffs. They were the last place team when they started in Buffalo, and then they got in the playoffs. I think that's impressive. And they basically decided not to be in 5th place.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, it's been such fun doing this, Jared. I look forward to continuing our Buffalo Bills pregame adventure together.
But we have one more thing, though.
Oh, go ahead.
I finally get to reveal who won the tallies, or not the tallies, but who won our prediction each week. So there were 26 games. Randy.
Yes.
You were 16-10.
All right.
I, in the regular season, 16-10.
Oh my gosh.
We tied. Yeah.
Who was the tiebreaker? Who had a better division record?
Oh, I didn't do that. On one hand, you got a perfect score, which I was not able to accomplish. So good job there. However, I did unfortunately win the playoffs. If you count the playoffs, I was 2-0 and you were 0-2. But that's something I don't really want to brag about. So we'll call it a tie. We're equal in prediction.
That's something we can all live with, huh?
Yeah.
Well, Jared, it's been a pleasure. And all you viewers, like Jared said, thank you so much for tuning in and watching all season. We've enjoyed ourselves, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. And until never again, this is Buffalo Blue Jays baseball. Goodbye.